It was the summer of 2015 when Arav Mehra's life began to fall apart. He was a top-performing software engineer in Mumbai, working for one of the leading tech giants. Known for his discipline, calm demeanor, and sharp mind, Arav had earned not only respect but admiration from his peers. Yet, beneath his calm exterior, a storm was brewing. His father, once a strong and cheerful man, had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Arav had tried to remain focused on his work, convincing himself that being strong meant not letting his emotions take over. But each day he watched his father grow weaker, his confidence eroded, bit by bit. A month later, his longtime girlfriend, Nisha, left him. "I can't be in a relationship with someone who feels like a robot," she said.
"You never open up.
"It's like you've built walls so high, even I can't climb them." She left, and just like that, his emotional anchor was gone. At work, mistakes began creeping into his code. His performance review dropped from outstanding to needs improvement. Arav, once the poster child of resilience, was now a shadow walking the hallways. One evening, after another draining day, Arav boarded the local train. He stared out of the window, lost in thought, contemplating resignation. He didn't notice the man who sat next to him until he spoke.
"You look like someone was carrying the weight of the world."
Arav turned. The man was in his late 40s, with kind eyes and a smile that felt oddly reassuring.
"Sorry,"
Arav replied, not really in the mood for conversation. "I said, you look tired. Not just physically." "Here," the man tapped his chest.
"You retired inside."
Arav raised an eyebrow, wary. "Do we know each other?"
"No."
"But I've seen that look before. Had it myself once," the man replied.
"Name's Kabir."
Against his instinct, Arav found himself talking to Kabir. Maybe it was the fatigue, or maybe it was the fact that Kabir didn't try to fix him or offer cliched advice. He just listened. Before getting off at his station, Kabir handed Arav a card. It had only one line: "When you're ready to find the mountain, come here." Below it was an address. 4 weeks, the card stayed buried in his drawer. But things didn't get better. His father passed away quietly one night in his sleep. Arav didn't cry. Not at the funeral, not later. It was as if grief had frozen inside him. One night, alone in his apartment, staring at his father's photo, something inside him broke. The tears finally came. He cried for hours. And when he woke up the next morning, the only thing he could think about was the card. He packed a small bag and left Mumbai. The address was in Uttarakhand, near the Garhwal region, nestled in the shadows of the Himalayas. The mountain camp, the place was nothing like what he expected. It wasn't a retreat or a spiritual center. It was a small, rugged training camp with only 5 other people. Kabir welcomed him warmly. "This isn't a therapy center," Kabir said on the first day. "This is where you'll meet yourself, the version of you that's been hiding beneath expectations, pain, fear." The training was intense. They woke at 4 a.m., ran through icy trails,
Learned survival skills, journaling, silence days,
meditation.
cold river plunges.
But the hardest part? Talking. Each evening, they sat by the fire and opened up. Each person had a story, a loss, a betrayal, a guilt. Arav listened, and eventually, he began to speak too. Slowly, then all at once. The others never judged, only nodded, listened, accepted. For the first time in his life, Arav felt understood, not for his skills or success, but for his story. On the 30th day, Kabir handed them a sealed envelope. "Tomorrow is your final test," he said.
You climbed the summit alone.
Inside this envelope is a message you're only allowed to open if you reach the top. No phones, no maps.
Used instincts and lessons.
Arav felt his heart race. It wasn't Everest, but it was a high-altitude trek, enough to challenge even the fit. The next morning, he set off. The trail was foggy, uneven, and cruel. Hours passed. He slipped twice, nearly twisted his ankle once, and was tempted to turn back at least 5 times. But every time he considered quitting, he remembered his father's hand on his shoulder, Nisha's last words, and Kabir's eyes. He pushed on. At sunset, bloodied and exhausted, Arif reached the summit. It was eerily quiet. The wind was cold but clean. He sat on a rock, pulled out the envelope, and opened it. It read, "The mountain was never outside you. You just climbed the version of yourself that had given up.
The summit is your beginning, not your end.
Now, live like you made it here, because you did."
Arab laughed.
Then he cried again. But this time, it wasn't sorrow. It was relief, release, renewal. He returned to Mumbai a month later. He didn't go back to his old job. Instead, he started a small venture focused on mental resilience and emotional coaching for working professionals. He called it The Last Mile because, as he told his first group of clients, the last mile of the journey is always the hardest. That's the part where most people give up. But if you can just take one more step, even if you're broken, scared, lost, you'll reach a place beyond fear.
A place called self-belief.
His work gained traction. People came.
Word spread.
The man who once couldn't cry became the man others cried in front of. Years later, Arif would often visit that same mountain. Alone. Quietly. Not to test himself, but to thank the version of himself who didn't turn back.